All right, so guys, if there is one player out of this entire draft class for the Bears that I want to succeed, it's going to be this player, and I'm going to talk about it in this video. So obviously we know it's the NFL season. It's a dead period. I keep saying it pretty much in every video, but there are still things to talk about, and I'm going to try to find as many things to talk about up until at least training camp, until that starts, and of course until the preseason, and then after that, the NFL season, which is where the action will start, hopefully in a good way for us. But going into what we have right now, I kind of want to bring up a little fun talking point. And basically my question is this, for myself and for pretty much all of you guys to answer for yourselves as well. If you could guarantee that out of all our draft picks in this year's class in 2025, if you can only guarantee that one player will have a legendary career, I'm talking about multiple Pro Bowls, All-Pro honors, and eventually Hall of Fame, just an amazing pick. If there's only one player that you can choose to have that kind of career, who would it be? And just a really quick breakdown of what the draft picks were for the Chicago Bears. Obviously, starting off at number 10, our first round pick was Colston Loveland. And then going on to pick number 39, which was wide receiver Luther Burden out of Missouri, who was honestly my second favorite receiver in the draft. And then at pick 56, you had Ozzie Trapillo, left tackle out of Boston College. And then you had at pick 62, my favorite pick, Shamar Turner, defensive tackle, or even defensive end, Shamar Turner, who was out of Texas A&M. And then you go on to the very next pick, which is all the way up until the fourth round, Ruben Hippolyte, who was a linebacker. Then you go Zay Frazier, who was a fifth round cornerback. And then you go offensive lineman in the sixth round, which was offensive guard / center Luke Newman. And then our very last pick was running back out of Rutgers, Kyle Monangai, who also went to the same college and was also drafted in the seventh round, just like Isaiah Pacheco, who was also a seventh round pick out of Rutgers. So if there's only one guy out of all the guys I just listed to have a Hall of Fame career, who would that be? Now, you could honestly make a case for all of them. Obviously, you'd want your first round pick in Colston Loveland, especially if you're going to pick him in the top 10 at a position that you didn't really need. You definitely want him to work out. So, of course, there's an argument for Colston Loveland. There's an argument for Luther Burden as well. You know, does DJ Moore, how many more years does he have left in the tank? Obviously, he's still in his prime. I'm not saying we're alluding to the fact that we're going to trade him anytime soon. But at some point, maybe Luther Burden, when his rookie deal's up, you can comfortably let DJ walk, and then you bring in Luther Burden on that other deal. And now you have Rome and Luther Burden as your two stud wide receivers. Then you go on to the next pick after that, which was Ozzie Trapillo, stud left tackle, a guy that can sort of lock down a premium position for you for many years to come. And then you go Shamar Turner, my favorite player, obviously defensive end, defensive tackle, having an elite defensive lineman, sort of like the Khalil Mack days back in 2018 would be amazing for us. You could go, who was the next player? Ruben Hippolyte, linebacker. Honestly, there's not really much of an argument for him there. I guess a linebacker is pretty cool. I mean, we had Brian Urlacher, so there's that. Then you go on to Zay Frazier. You could have like a sort of another Jalen Johnson. That would be amazing. We had two star corners, kind of like what the Broncos are sort of going for after drafting Jahdae Barron in the first round, while already having Defensive Player of the Year in Patrick Surtain. So their secondary is going to be elite. And then you could go, the next pick after that was Luke Newman. You could pick Luke Newman as well as a great center, great guard, a guy to sort of replace Joe Thuney. Or you could go the very next pick after that, the last pick, Kyle Monangai. We saw what Saquon Barkley did for the Eagles last season. He would be an amazing addition or amazing Hall of Fame player for us. So there's arguments really for everyone. And honestly, having a Hall of Fame player at really any position is going to be very beneficial for your team. And it just locks down for that position, not have to worry about that for many years to come. But if I had to pick one guy out of all this, and maybe you guys can already tell by the thumbnail, it's going to be Ozzie Trapillo for me. And I know some of you guys might be surprised because I've said it many times before. Shamar Turner is my favorite draft pick in this entire draft. But I think he would fall second on this sort of question and this sort of scenario. And the reason why is simply because of the position. Now, don't get me wrong. Having an elite defensive tackle, how like the Eagles have Jalen Carter, how the Rams had Aaron Donald, how the Jets have Quinnen Williams, the Chiefs have Chris Jones, it would be amazing. Yes, I would love that. And it would be an amazing thing for Bears fans, for our defensive line and everything, and it would be terrible for the rest of our division and any team that faces us. However, having an elite left tackle would do wonders, and I mean wonders, for this team. I mean, you're talking about a guy on the offensive line, which is something that we've struggled with for years. We have not had a really good left tackle in God knows how long. I mean, we've had solid level play in Braxton Jones. Jason Peters was okay for his time being here. Charles Leno was okay in his time being here. But we haven't had a David Bakhtiari on our team. We haven't had a Ronnie Stanley on our team. We haven't had an Orlando Pace, an Anthony Munoz. We haven't had any of these like elite level left tackles, or Jordan Mailata from the Eagles. I mean, we don't have that. And part of the reason why those guys are succeeding on their teams is because they're so good for their quarterback. Lamar Jackson has, as a right-handed quarterback especially, now this doesn't apply to Tua really, even though left tackle is still important no matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. But being able to protect your quarterback's blind side as a right-handed quarterback is so underappreciated in this league. And there's a reason why I would argue left tackle is the second most important position behind quarterback. I know people want to say edge as well, but left tackle, man, if you look at what David Bakhtiari did for Aaron Rodgers during his prime, the fact that Aaron Rodgers didn't have to really worry what was going on the left side of him, on his blind side, on top of already having elite pocket presence, just made him an absolute stud during the 2010s era. And obviously won him multiple Pro Bowls. I mean, you look at, the Chiefs, you look at, the 49ers with Trent Williams, you look at the Ravens, like I just said, you look at the Eagles. All these guys are succeeding, and a large part of that is due to the fact that they have an elite left tackle. And if I had to pick anybody from this class, Ozzie Trapillo, who has been stepping it up and is honestly getting a lot of good, how could I say, like he's getting a lot of compliments from Ben Johnson and the rest of the staff on how well he's, sort of progressing along rookie minicamp. Obviously, we're not going to know within probably 2 to 3 years how any of these players turn out, in terms of their career and what legacy they'll leave behind. But as for now, man, if I had to pick any of these players, man, it's going to be Ozzie Trapillo, man. I would go second, Shamar Turner. And then number 3, I'd probably go Colston Loveland. But I think just the fact that you can have an elite level left tackle. And actually, I do want to look something up real quick. I think the last time we had a Hall of Fame, like a true Hall of Fame level left tackle, I want to say was Jimbo Covert. And if I want to look this up real quick, I believe he played with the 85 Bears. He won Super Bowl 20 with the Chicago Bears. So would you look at that? The last time that the Bears had a homegrown left tackle, it was when we won the Super Bowl. The last time we had that, we won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that, Jimbo Covert was the main reason or was the biggest reason or whatever, but I guarantee you he played a large part in that Super Bowl win. Obviously, our defense was elite, but you got to believe Walter Payton loved that man too, for just being able to block for him. And, of course, Jim McMahon too, for being, I think he was grateful for him as well, helping him win a ring. So that's my argument on it. Let me know what you guys think. Ozzie Trapillo is my guy. I really hope he does turn out to be a stud because he's lighting it up in minicamp. And Braxton Jones obviously is a huge question mark. And I hope Braxton Jones is healthy and he proves us all wrong. But Ozzie Trapillo, man, if you get elite level left tackle out of him and you're able to keep him on the team for 10 plus years, man, holy crap. Caleb Williams' life will be so great. And Ben Johnson's scheme will be that much easier to run. So let me know what you guys think, man, in the comments down below. Bear down, I'm out.